2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Check, 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 check. Stand by. We are live. Okay, welcome back to Real Cast Fishing. Your host, Glenn, with the City of Adam Fishing Field Team, COAF Field Team on YouTube. And this round, what we got for you? Well, we're going to be talking about stocking locations, fly fishing tips for stock trout. But while we're waiting for some folks to join, we'll just kind of sit back and relax and we'll just kind of hang out for now while we let some folks join. And then we'll kick off everything here shortly. So while we're waiting for folks to join, let me go and do a little quick howdy on the chat. Howdy. We'll begin in, let's say 5 minutes. Yeah, let's say 5 minutes. All right. And I mainly want to allow time for folks to join. This is a cool Sunday. Just chilling. Let's see if I can get the chat window up. Okay. Yeah, I think it's showing. All right, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We'll start here shortly. But for now, I'm just gonna relax here. All right, let's see. I think I see some info popping up. Okay, yeah, there it is. All right. All right. Okay. Looks like going to be a slow start, but it's okay. We could always talk fishing. We were supposed to get some rain throughout the day. We actually did. And then it kind of quieted down a little. So I think we're good now. Let's see. Just let me check out the stream here. Make sure that it's working correctly. Okay, output, video, audio, output. Hello, we're just waiting for some folks to join. Looks like we got a couple on right now. I'm just going to give it about another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll kick things off. Hope you guys are having a good time today or this evening. Over here, it's currently, let's see, 8:30 something here in the Central Time. Let's see, and we'll go right through everything here. All right, let's well, no, we got a couple more minutes. Give it a couple of more minutes and we'll start things off. What we're going to be talking about is stocking locations, fly fishing tips for stock trout, and a particular subject we want to talk about here. So stand by and we'll be starting here shortly. All right. Okay. Let's see. I got 8:33 p.m. Central right now. Have a little coffee, little Java for the evening. Okay, we got some folks popping in and out, but we'll start off here in about another minute, and we'll just go through the whole routine, and then we'll start it out. Okay, another minute, and we'll start. Okay, looks like we got some folks joining. Okay, howdy. Looks like we got one. Howdy. We got one person on. It's all right. It's how these live streams go. We'll see people come in and out, and hopefully we'll get to a portion where, things will pick up on. All right. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's begin. Okay. Okay. All right. This round we're talking about stocking locations, fly fishing tips for stock trout. In particular, what we're talking about is location. Applies to fishing as well. And in this round, we're going to be talking specifically of stocking locations, small ponds, community lakes, and rivers. Now, there's some other things that we could talk about fly fishing tips for stock trout, specifically fishing gear, fishing flies. But what I'd like to do is just kind of start things out with stocking locations, because if you can find a place that's holding the fish, well, then guess what? There's probably a good opportunity that you'll be able to catch a fish or two. So let's go and focus on stocking locations. And when I say stocking locations, I'm talking small ponds, community lakes, and rivers. And so we'll start out with with the first item, small ponds. Okay. And I'll just give a couple of examples of a couple of small ponds that are stocked pretty much every year here in the state of Texas. We'll start our trout stocking program here coming in mid to late November and then rolling all the way into March. Okay, and so in the picture here, I've got Waterloo Park Pond on the left, and then I have Caruth Park. Okay, Waterloo Park Pond is located in Denison, Texas, about maybe 45 minutes up the road from yours truly, living in the city of Allen, just north of the Dallas Metroplex. The other one is Caruth Park. That one is in Highland Park, in the heart of Dallas. Okay, and we'll just kind of shift on into this particular location. This is
the side that where the wind was really blowing and causing a lot of the water to hit the surface, and you could see that they sort of tended in that side of the pond to the point that we were able to get a few that were striking easily within 5-6 feet of the bank.
Okay, what I'm showing here is Waterloo Park Pond, and I'm going to go and point out in this particular stocking location the areas that I'm fishing. I will run through that video that you can see some of the past trips, possible lessons learned, as well as some tips that are picked up during that round, and then we'll shift over to the second small pond location. All right.
There were some small ones. Did get a few larger ones, which surprised us, because been there before and hadn't got them. But this round looks like they had to put in some bigger ones. There's another one here. Another light strike here.
Okay, and in this video, I am standing just right next to this area here, where I've just highlighted in red. Okay, and I am fishing toward the water fountain in this particular area right here. The water is circulating more in a clockwise motion, and the trout are lurking near that water area as well as along the banks, just a few feet off. I'd say about maybe 8 to 10 feet. Okay, but let's go ahead and run through the video.
Another one taking the fly.
And in this video, I'm using a small, I believe it's a 4-weight. And I'm using a olive near deer. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Here's some of the things we want to talk about. Let me shift. Okay. All right. So I'm fishing this particular pond, and the location that I was showing is this area right here. Okay. I'm fishing this location here where the water is flowing, and the key takeaway here, specifically looking at Waterloo Park Pond, is all along this section. Let me go ahead and take the camera picture out right there. All along this section right here is a shallow area all along here, okay? And then it drops off. And what you want to do is fish this area as the water's flowing in this counter or this clockwise motion, okay? And the trout are tending anywhere along that area. I've had good success standing in this location here, this location, anywhere along here, along this sidewalk, doing well, catching a fish or two, no problem. One other thing that you do want to take a look at also is this area right here, which has a shallow area and drops off into a deeper section. I'd say maybe 4 feet, 2 to 4 feet. Depending on when the wind is blowing, it pushes things to the other side, bugs, whatnot, and the trout will start tending in that direction, okay? The other thing is, and this is just over the course of just years and years of fishing this location, just kind of pick up these patterns, is right here, all along this section here, at a certain time of year, you'll start getting these little black midges. Oh, I'd say about maybe a size 16, size 18 hook or fish. Not really a fish. Fly. Okay. And at times, the only way they're going to be striking is on that dry fly, fishing this area here, allowing it to drift in. I've gone out there with bait, power baits and whatnot, but it turns out these midges seem to be the key thing. Okay, so that is the first example of location from catching more trout on a fishing or stock trout fishing is well, to give that one a try. Oh, ground fog. Howdy. Welcome. All right, let's go on to the next one. Okay, it'll shift
Trout Park here in Dallas. We're going to give it a shot with some of the trout. All right, first time here at Caruth Park. Check it out here. You can see the water.
Okay, and where I was standing initially, it's this location here where I'm crossing the bridge. And as I cross the bridge, I'm coming out to this section here and kind of scoping things out. And in this video, it turns out I didn't do as well as I normally do. I've gone back over the years and did some fly fishing as well as ultralight bait casting, aka BFS style fishing, and limited out, no problem there. This was my first trip here. I was just kind of learning the area, and I did notice certain places to go. In this case, it's a small pond. So you're going to go fish a small pond for these stock trout. Look for these key things that, well, they seem to carry over every small pond we've gone to. And I think it even applies to maybe some larger waters as well. Okay, let's go back here. So I was mentioning this is where I was standing. Okay. Later on, with this fountain right here, again, you got that water flow that's coming around. There's also another fountain up here in this little small pool where they don't stock it with trout, but this tends to be where they're coming and moving about all the way up into this area here to this bridge. It gets a little shallow amongst this channel, and then you'll see a lot of the sunfish and bass and whatnot. But in this case, if you were focusing for trout, I would look into those lanes right there as well as that particular location in this. I call it a cove. All right, let's go ahead and run the video.
All right, got a tip from an individual saying there's some trout here, so let's go give it a shot. All right, we saw something on top moving. There he goes. All right, one on the fly. Oh yeah, little guy. All right, a little stock of trout kick off today. Cool beans. All right, looks like we got a limit here, or several limits.
We got 15 for the
All right.
3 of us.
Cool.
Looks pretty
Good
good.
stuff. All right, that one hit it as it was dropping. Still on. I lost him. Oh, he's still. All right, little bluegill. All right, well, we caught one, we lost one, and we got a bluegill. Other folks are doing really good. Looks like Super Duper Silver as well as Power Bait's working good. And then Power Worms. We got one on the olive near deer. And also had several chase the white near deer.
Okay, so Karuk Park, heart of Dallas, Highland Park area. They stock it every year, typically around the March time frame. And what I noticed over the years is they tend to release the trout right in this one corner, right here where I'm circling it, okay? And when they release them, they'll start kind of congregating here and then start moving out, okay? And I've had success all along this bank right here, as well as standing in this point and just casting right in here, as well as standing underneath this tree and casting back in there. And I've caught them, fly fishing, as well as with inline spinners and super dupers, the whole range of your normal fishing gear that you take. And that's why I'm in this round, I'm mainly talking about locations versus the gear, as well as the flies or even lures that I use for catching stock trout. So in this case, this was the first time I fished this, but over the years, every time they fish it now, the first place I go is wherever they started releasing those trout. It's going to be right in this one corner or this little cove, and then just take it out in this area here. All right. And then, as I said, if you get some polarized glasses and you can take a look down here in this area, it gets shallow, but you will be surprised by some of these trout that'll be lurking in there, as well as you probably see a bass or a sunfish or two while you're there. Okay. All right. So that wraps up the stocking location, looking at small ponds. So the next one we're going to look at is community lakes. Okay, so what's the difference? What's the difference between a small pond and a community lake? One's small, one's bigger, and that's pretty much it. I kind of arbitrarily set that just so I can give you some good categories to explain when you're fishing a particular location. Is it a small pond? Can I hit different key areas quickly and move about? Or in the case of a community lake, two things are going to happen. It's going to be this big location, but they'll cordon off an area where they'll stock the trout, or they're going to release it to the whole area, and it's going to be a tough one to find where they are. But what I've noticed in one particular case, they tend to do the same thing year in, year out. So I'm going to give you in this example of two community lakes, Town Lake, okay, in the city of McKinney, all right, Town Lake in the city of McKinney, right here. And then the other one is Warren Sports Complex in the city of Frisco. And both these are cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, both of them about north of the Metroplex. Frisco is further west of us. McKinney is further north of Dallas, or north of us, meaning Allen, where I am currently at. In the case of Town Lake, that's the example of it's a large community lake, but they've cordoned it off. So when they stock the trout here, they'll actually cordon off a portion of it and stock the trout in that area and this area. Okay. In the case of Warren Sports Complex, it's also known as Vial Lake. They stock that baby and release them into the whole lake. Okay. So you're going to have to play it differently for each one of these. In the case of Town Lake, you could probably fish it more like a small pond. In the case of Warren Sports Complex, well, That's why you're here. I'll explain some of the things to look for in the case of this larger location. All right. But let's go ahead and take you to the video and show you some of these past trips, and then we'll talk some of the suggestions, tips, and things that I've learned to call out. All right, it's Sunday, right after the Trout Derby on Saturday, and now we're just checking things out.
So we've been out of pocket these last few days. Last time we went fishing was this past Sunday. And as we're showing here, we're hooking up.
All right, same thing like yesterday. Guadalupana, slow retrieve, hitting on a on the sink. All right, first one of the day. Will be. All right, there's a hit. Right on the drop. Starting to feed on the upper part of the water surface or water column. Seeing some folks hitting with trout worms as well as corn. Also seeing some folks with super dupers and power bait. This would be number 2. Nice size one too. Cool beans. All right, to give you an idea what we're using a Lamson liquid 4 reel on a 6-weight Cabela's TLR switch rod, 11-foot. And then for our fly, it's that Guadalupana we tied, courtesy of someone reminding us about this fly, and sure enough, it turns out this one's a real good one to use. At least yesterday and this morning. This one actually chased it this time, so hopefully we'll get this one in versus lose the other one. One of the bigger ones we've seen out here. Cool beans.
So the pattern changed from we initially were fishing. We were doing a slow retrieve, and then later on we were starting to get them on the move, making a lot more movement with the fly.
I'm gonna hit it while it was moving. A fast retrieve. There he is, chasing it. There he goes. Okay, faster than early morning. They definitely like chasing things.
Here's another view of that fast retrieve that we're using. And pretty much moving it pretty fast, and they're hitting it.
So when it's like this, you can pretty much just cast and just real fast. You can see these little stalkers. Fun stuff.
And here you'll see a couple of the retrieves where we're continuing moving the fly. Not as fast, but still getting those hits, and actually hitting the fly and then running into us. So we're having to pick up line, make sure they stay on. And then as the morning went on, we were able to get back to the other pattern where we're just doing the long pull and a slower retrieve and start hooking up with them again. There's that example.
All right, number 5.
So we limited out with 5, had a good time also doing some catch and release. And overall, for that morning, we were able to have a good time with that switch rod and catching some trout.
Alrighty, so that was the situation where you're fishing a large community lake, but they partitioned off the area so you can fish it more like a small pond. So let's go and take you to what I'm talking about here. Okay, so this is Town Lake in the city of McKinney. All right, and when I say it's been partitioned, this section here, they put some netting. Okay, you can tell if you go by the end of the parking lot area, they'll put this little netting, and it prevents the trout from going into the remainder of the lake, which is a fairly good sized lake. Okay, the water here is about I'd say maybe about 4 feet. It's not very deep. You can see the bottom at times when you have some polarized glasses, and this area here is where you would fish it. Sometimes they'll have some netting here that'll block off this section along with this pond over here. Okay, and in this case, you're fishing this large community lake more like 2 small ponds. Okay, And it's kind of cool in that one is more like fishing, well, a small pond that has very minimal structure, okay? Meaning it's pretty much 4 foot and flat, and the trout are just going to be doing their circle, okay? And when I say circle, what's happening is they'll be in the partitioned area, and you'll see them, they'll just start circling about, moving throughout this whole area. And if you just station yourself along the bank and be ready, you can watch the school as it goes by and catch them, okay? In the case of the second small pond here at Town Lake, you have this little cove area, okay, just under this bridge. And this one, they do a circle, but there's also some key areas that they are lurking. They will go and linger here in this middle section where it's deep, okay? All along this section here, there's a shallow area that just kind of juts out like so. And you kind of got to get over that shallow area to get them where they're lurking. You will be able to catch them in the shallow area as they're circling about, but they will typically tend to be here in this middle area, okay, right there. Additionally, you've got a little feeder creek or creek that flows into this pond area. You will get them along this section here, right there, if you station yourself there. In fact, where I was standing in this video, I was standing right there, just by the parking lot, okay? And some of the things to take away from this location is, yes, it's a community lake, a large community lake, but it's basically 2 small ponds. And in this case, you'll see year in, year out, what'll typically happen is station yourself. If you can get on this corner here or this bank or along this bank here, there's a good opportunity that you're going to get within range of when those trout are circling about in that location. On this side, you have this here, this bank, as well as this bank right here. Any one of those spots would be good. These areas here and over here by this tree, a little bit tough because you usually have a lot of folks fishing and they may be in the way as well as to be crossing your lines and whatnot. Okay. All right. Let's go to Warren Sports Complex next. Okay. All right, let's just shift over.
February 12th, I think, and I've got Echo Ion fly rod or fly reel with that OPST scatter head along with the bait finesse style fishing gear, and we're gonna just play it by ear, see how the bite is today. It's about 32 degrees this morning and kind of chilly. Hopefully we'll see maybe a fish or two out here today. Good amount of people. Cool. All right. I don't see much water movement. I do see something in the middle, and I remember right along this dam faces where they were kind of hanging out, but things change each year. But kind of looking at things, it looks kind of slow right now, but hey, it looks like a lot of folks are here, so someone's going to get some activity here. Over here by a little concrete deal. I think there's a little water flow here, so that might help. I'm going to start out with this bait finesse style with a gold super duper. The cork strike indicator, that olive near deer. Going to use the same setup I used at Harry Myers. Did try the little bait finesse style with a gold super duper and didn't get any hits. But we do see some activity. Folks are catching stuff, so we know the fish are here. We just got to get one on the line. I haven't caught anything yet, but I'm going to try an inline spinner now and see what happens. It's like a bubble fly rig with, looks like mice tail. Maybe some power worms mixed in there. I'm Glenn at COAF Field Team on YouTube. A little windy out here. I apologize for that, but we are on site in our Out and About fishing series. We're over here at Warren Park in Frisco, and See if I can get you a view of it. There it is right there. Yours truly went out here and did a little fishing, and well, I didn't do so well, but we do see some other folks doing well, mainly over there by that concrete section. Let me see if I can zoom in on it right there. Right there, that concrete section right in the middle, cast it out far, using bubble fly rigs as well as some mice tail, and I saw some good happenings there as well. Some folks using some bread under some bubble floats as well, and they looked like they were doing well, but it seemed to be right in the middle of that section of the dam face by that concrete middle thing right there, concrete middle deal. And then I did see an individual just catch one just shortly up close over here on this far side of the pond, so right over here. So you can see there's a fair amount of people out here. It looks like someone's catching something over here off to my right. Let me see if I can zoom in over here right there. All right, so it looks like they're everywhere here. You just got to figure out why they're not on my hook. I tried some different flies, the olive near deer, the white near deer, as well as some worms, and then I switched over, or power worms, and I switched over to some bait finesse style fishing, and I was able to cast it out. I noticed that the super duper that another individual was using I think it was a copper super duper that was doing well. So things are happening here. A little bit cold. Got a little wind. It was colder earlier when we first got here. I think it was in the 30s. No indicator, and just kind of let it sink and let them take it. All right, number 2 for me, but I'm letting them go today. Did see some other folks doing well, but I believe it was more of the bait rig that they were using. They were using mice tails under a bubble float, about 2 foot, 3 foot under.
Okay, that was the case of a community lake, a larger lake, and they've released the trout in the entire location, in this case, Warren Sports Complex. And just kind of show you some lessons learned over the years is, here is Warren Sports Complex, and that one last video I've posted, you'll see where I've circled, that's that concrete location where they were tending. And then over the years, what I've noticed is, it's like year in, year out, they all tend to be along this section here, typically more along this area here by that concrete area. Additionally, all along here is a good place to stand. I think there's also this pier here, and they seem to congregate along this area, okay? However, you saw somebody catching some fish here as well as someone over here. They do tend to that area. I did see some catches there all along this section here, okay? But what happens is this tends to be the area where they get caught the most. And I believe, like in other locations where they're kind of circling about in the pond, it looks like that's what they're doing as well here. Additionally, you have I wouldn't say fountains, but I guess they're pumps that are moving the water. You'll see them in the while you're there, you'll just see this kind of bubbly water flow coming up out of the water surface. It's not really spraying a fountain or anything, but you can see it's moving some water like a pump is running. Okay, so they'll kind of lurk in that area. Okay, and so we talked to small ponds. Okay. All right, and we gave you the example of the of Waterloo Park up in Denison, and then we fished or showed you Caruth Park in the heart of Dallas, Highland Park area where they stocked, and then we went over to McKinney, showed you Town Lake, where it's a community lake, but they partitioned off an area, and it's pretty much like fishing 2 small ponds. And then shift over to this case, Warren Sports Complex that I just showed. And this is just a large community lake, and they've released the trout there. I fished just about 3 seasons now. They used to stock over here in Frisco Commons Pond, but they started fishing or releasing trout at the Warren Sports Complex, Bio Lake, about 4 years ago. And what I've noticed over the years has been they tend to those particular areas. And just to reiterate, this area here, okay? All right. So location, location, location. Let me get you to where most likely the trout are lurking, and then work your gear, work your flies, and you should be able to hook up. All right. Okay. I think the next one is going to be rivers. Let's go and run that one real quick. Okay. And let's see. Yeah, it should be coming up. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So in this situation, we're talking about rivers right here. All right. So we talked to small ponds, we talked to community lakes, now we're talking rivers. So there's two examples that I'd like to show you this round. It's Lila, Lake Louisville Ecological Learning Area, which is basically at the tail race of Lake Louisville, here again in the Dallas Metroplex. And the other one is west of Fort Worth, Highway 16 Bridge, Possum Kingdom Lake. It's more of a tail race that feeds into the Brazos and goes under the Highway 16 bridge. All right, and what I want to show you is some particulars. In this case, we'll go to Lila.
Okay, we're here at Lake Louisville Ecological Learning Area. It's also called locally Lila, and we hadn't been here for a while, and probably about 2-3 years. We normally come here when the trout are stocked here in the winter, but it's here October right now, so it's going to be a little bit more before they stock. And what we want to do is just take a look at what the river's looking like and what the tail race area is, and see what we got. And bottom line, this is the tail race to Lake Louisville here in the city of Louisville in Texas. So we're just going down the one road, and shortly we'll be in the parking area, and hopefully we can get a good idea of what it's going to be like, and maybe we might be able to get some fish. All right, we're coming up on the parking area. It looks like there's a few folks fishing over there. We asked the attendant, and they mentioned that there were some folks fishing, but couldn't tell how the action was. So we'll see here in a little bit. So wish us luck.
All right, so we're here at Lila, Lake Louisville Ecological Learning Area. Got the switch rod out, size 6. We're using a Clouser minnow, craft fur one that we used up at Denison Dam. It's a chartreuse and white, and we've gotten a couple of hits so far, but so far we've missed. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so far we've seen folks catching some white bass, yellow bass, maybe even some hybrids. So far with our switch rod, we've gotten several misses, so we haven't hooked up yet, but we're sure to hope that we do shortly. We're just going to walk over to the other side here and see if we can try the other side now.
Alrighty, so we did make it to the other side, and we were able to check out how things were going. We saw some folks over here by the tail race catching some nice-looking fish. Ourselves able to fish just downriver from them, and unfortunately did not get any bites. So we ended up going on back to the other side. And as it turns out, going to the other side, we're finally able to hook up with our first fish. We're drifting a near deer under a strike indicator. We were able to keep it right into the pocket, or at least in the run where they were hanging, and sure enough, we were able to get this guy. Turned out to be a white bass. That's our first fish of the day. It's a white bass on a strike or on a near deer.
Okay, well, this is the rig we used. It was a near deer, no trailing rig, and an indicator about 3 foot below, and just drifting it through the run here. All right, so we've got that one white bass, and we let him go. Now we're just going to see if we can play around with some of these carp we see over here in the shallows. Good luck.
All right, give you an idea of what we're doing. We see a whole bunch of carp or buffalo in this area. You can see some of these dark patches, and what we're doing is we're casting and doing some sight casting, and as we get their attention, we're hoping to set the hook and be able to get them, but unfortunately most of the time they're looking like they're going for the fly, and then they turn away. And what ended up happening is this, we end up, sure enough, foul hooking instead of getting them like we wanted to. But they did have some interest in the fly. Unfortunately, they would turn around or turn away, or at least we'd miss that hook set. All right, so speaking of hook sets, here's one where we got him on the line, and he's taking out the fly line, and we're trying to bring him in, and we end up missing this one. And yes, we got him this time. And like we were saying, we were a lot of hits and misses. In this case, we had him coming to the line or coming to the fly. We set the hook, and unfortunately, didn't get him in the mouth. We ended up getting him, I believe, on the side. But he put a really good fight, put a really nice bend on that 6-weight, and maybe took us a couple of minutes to bring him in. And once we did get him there, I had to deal with some of the algae and whatnot, but we did get this guy in hand, and we're able to at least get a good view of him up close. All right, so here's our second one that we were able to get on the line. Again, this one put up a good fight. And unfortunately, this was another one that was a foul hook. And in this case, we saw him turn at our fly. And as soon as we saw him, that it looked like he was taking the fly, we quickly set the hook. And sure enough, we got him right above the mouth, closer to the eye, I guess. That said, still a good time catching this guy and being able to get some good fight on that rod.
All right, we're up close and personal here at the discharge, and we're just checking things out. Cool stuff.
Okay, so we shifted away from the tail race area, just a little bit downriver from there, back by the rocks, and that run where we had caught the white bass, but on the other side. In this case, we started finding a pattern with the near deer, in this case a white near deer, and some little crappie just hanging out just over here in this one.
All right, what we're doing is using the white near deer under indicator, just finding it in that money zone, and getting these little crappie.
All right, so we found that pattern and kept up just catching these little guys. Here's another one where we're kind of playing around. We just missed this one hook set, but fortunately right after this one, we'll get another chance at this guy. And sure enough, we got one on the hook.
All right, they're still in the hole. Had a couple of misses, but we got this guy. You can see they're undersized crappie. It's still fun to catch on that white near deer.
Okay, that is the case where the plan was to fish a river, Lake Louisville Ecological Learning Area, and the intent was to catch trout. But unfortunately, I had to shift things because the trout weren't biting, but everything else was. And so I had some fun catching some buffalo, some carp, white bass, undersized crappie. I was using a switch rod again, but the key here is I still fished it from a trout standpoint. I didn't luck out this time. But I have in the past, working these particular areas, working this river, the Elm Fork Trinity River, I think Elm Fork of the Trinity River, which is the just flowing out of the Louisville Lake. And let me just point out some key areas. So we're in that first portion of the video, I'm standing back over here in this upper corner or upper section. I'm actually at the base of the rocks, and I was catching some crappie and some other like white bass and whatnot. And then the next one, I went over to the other side and I started fishing right in this section where there was some fast water. Okay. And that's where I was catching some crappie, white bass, and well, there's some hybrids there that some of the guys were catching at that particular time, but I didn't get any. And then where I was getting those buffalo and carp, I was standing off on this bank here, overlooking into the water. It's more of a shallow area. You could polarize glasses, you could see them, sight cast to them, and I only had one hook up in the mouth. Everything else was either close to the mouth or near the body area. Because what I was doing was I was casting my fly, and when I'd see him come in and swipe at it, I would just immediately set the hook. And from there, I was able to hook up that manner. Okay, let's see. And then when we're talking trout, when they are biting, okay, key areas to look at is as you come down to the parking area, you come down here, this area here, you can wade in, and sometimes you'll see them lurking there with your polarized glasses. Okay, but most times after this first bend, so right here is a bunch of rocks right in there. If you go past that and you get into this area here, right here, that's where they tend to lurk. Okay, they release them into the river, they start coming in. That first hole is where you'll typically find them, and then from there you can work along this section here. It'll get shallow and then it'll get a little bit deeper. This side gets shallow, then gets deeper. I mean, shallow, I'm talking you can wade through it up, you know, geez, ankle deep. All right. But you can catch trout there as long as you just kind of work some of those little channels and whatnot. Also be careful, or not be careful, but look for those undercut banks. Okay, there's several where I've caught and lost some good sized fish. There was one year someone caught, they released some larger sized trout that year. I think like 14s to 16 inch, if not bigger. And some folks did really well fishing for them. And those tended to be further down the river, lurking in this particular area, right along here, and then back in here, and then all along here. As you walk along this section here, it's actually high, like 10 to 15 feet high above the water. You can look down to the river, and you can put your polarized glasses and look and just kind of see. You'll see these different areas that look like it may hold a fish. We'll give it a try because it may hold a fish. Okay. All right. Okay. Right down here in this particular run, when you get to this section, it'll, as you walk it, you'll feel the water get deeper, and then you'll feel it get higher. So right along one of these bends where it gets a little bit shallow, you can stand there and work. I'm talking work all the way up to your rod, because the trout could be at your feet, and they're just kind of lurking right in there, and you'll be surprised. I've caught fish high sticking my fly rod like so, and letting my fly come through a channel and hooked up with the trout in that manner. Okay, you can go further down, and sometimes you'll find them there, but by then you're usually getting the white bass and other fish there. All right, and then there's been a couple of years where it just kind of washed everything, and everything went further down river because it just rained like crazy, which is a bummer. But hey, that's river fishing. Okay, so Lake Louisville Ecological Learning Area, there is a day entrance fee that you pay when you come through the gate. I think they only take debit cards. I don't think they do cash. And then there are some other limitations, like you can't have any cast nets and whatnot. And then I like to wear wading gear because I like to be able to get into the river and get closer to some of these areas, especially this section here, right along here. All right, and also because you got that high bank. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's take us to the next one. Okay, and the next one is going to be right here, Highway 16 Bridge, Possum Kingdom Lake, just west of Fort Worth. I'd say about an hour and a half or so, headed to Gray Ford, Texas. And this is, right here is the dam, and it all flows down here to the Highway 16 crossing. Okay, bridge, Highway 16 bridge. And the area that we're going to be talking about is
headed out to Possum Kingdom, Highway 16, 26.
Here. Okay, this is the Highway 16 bridge. This whole area I fished trying to get trout as well as striped bass, pretty much this area. Okay, and let me show you, this is the first trip I took to Possum Kingdom. Went there on a whim. just to see what was biting. And they stocked this, I believe, several times during the season, either every 2 weeks or a recurring schedule. Just check out the trout stocking schedule that's going to be coming out here latter part of November. All right, Texas Parks and Wildlife will post it, and you should be able to go to the website and you can get an idea of what's biting. Okay, but let's go and talk about, again, this is the third location that I was just walking us through in this. There was small ponds, there's community lakes, and now we're at the river section. In particular, we talked about Lila, Lake Louisville Ecological Learning Area. It's more of a smaller river with a smaller section that you would fish, or less areas. In this case, this is a bigger river, but again, same concept. There are certain places that tend to try year in, year out for trout. Okay. Plus, there's a cool looking bridge here. All right. All right, let's go ahead and kick it off.
Saturday. Give it a shot. We were trying to go for some rainbow trout that was stocked there recently, as well as some striped bass. Unfortunately, we forgot our clouser minnows and ended up focusing on the trout fishing. And while we're crossing the bridge from the parking area, noticed what looked like some trout in this one area right here, just off the bridge. So we decided to give it a cast, and in short order, looked like we got a bite here. We're using a olive near deer with no trailer this time, and I'm just kind of working it like we normally do with some short pulls as we brought them in.
And one thing to call out is I'm going to be pointing out where I'm standing. In this case, I'm actually standing right here and then fishing this section here. That's just like it's more like a little pond that's been formed that shoots off from the river itself. Okay. And I'll just keep pointing out different spots here in the picture.
And the day was really nice, kind of chilly, but we were expecting some rain later, and it did come, but it was just a slight drizzle. And here's our first trout of the morning. And we kept fishing that area as well, and I ended up getting another bite here shortly after. And they were forecasting some more rain and a cold front arriving. A cold front did arrive, but the rain kind of stayed off. Just got a few drops here and there while we were there. So overall, it was a great time out there. And so we were fishing for trout, and while we were doing so, ended up getting some of these guys. And then started working up at the closer to the river portion. Still stayed in this pool. We saw some movement, something splashing on the surface, and so we gave it a shot. We got cast, and sure enough, we got this guy to hit. This will be trout number 2. So ended up with 2 trout, and then the rest of the time we ended up catching various fish and doing some exploring. So this is on the other side of the bridge. Just kind of walked under it and started looking around, and we went upriver, heading up to several pools to check things out, and everything looked pretty interesting. We saw some movement as well as some service activity, but just couldn't get anything to bite. So we were about ready to call it quits, and then we started hooking to these little guys, so that kept things busy for a little bit. And we were using a rainbow warrior, and we got this one striped bass on a near deer. And then about ready to call it quits, and then we decided to give it one more cast, and right over here by one of the logs, and sure enough, we got another trout. It'll be trout number 3. And then what was it, about right after this, we'll get another little perch. And then instead of calling it quits, we kept at it, and sure enough, we got another striped bass, and so that was pretty fun. And then somehow we figured out the pattern, and it was kind of different than what we were normally used to. We're casting it and kind of letting out line, and what we'll show you here is just this kind of jerky movement that we made as the fly was working its way down. And what we noticed was as we did that, we would get strikes, and sometimes we get them, sometimes we didn't. But sure enough, we were able to do it enough times to get a limit. And then here's an example of that retrieve that we were using. So we cast it out, and shortly after, we're just going to start pumping or twitching the fly with the rod tip as it's drifting down. And then sure enough, we'll get a bite. And here's another one coming in right here. And I believe this one's going to be, it's going to come off the hook. Anyways, that was the technique that we were using. And here's a view of the bridge. Alrighty, till next time, we'll catch y'all there, and good luck and good fishing.
Okay, so that was Possum Kingdom Lake, Highway 16 bridge, where they stock it every year with trout. And wanted to call out a few things in particular about this location. So the first plot that I caught trout as well as other fish was this location right here. Okay, let me clear it. Okay, and what I did was I came across, waded the river, crossed the river, came over here and noticed some movement. So I started fishing that particular location. Okay. So again, it's like fishing a small pond in this case, because it basically was a small pond that just kind of an offshoot from the river. And then from there, I crossed under the bridge, came over like so, and let's see, again, I kind of, bear with me here. Okay. I kind of had my polarized glasses. I was looking into the river just to make sure I could see, you know, whatever movement was there. And so I just kind of worked my way there, and I did see some shadows and whatnot, but really didn't see anything. So I kept going and worked my way all the way up and around and fished, waited, and then came back and ended up here again and catching, I think, some striped bass and whatnot. Not the big ones, just some little schoolies. And then from there, I was getting ready to call it quits. I came back around, ended up catching another one right about in this area here. Okay. And then I crossed back, took a break, and then somehow I made it down here to this spot, okay, which overlooks the river. And it's like a big log that was kind of stuck in the bank, but going into the river. And I stood there, and I was able to catch some little perch and whatnot, and a bluegill, and then I caught some trout. I was like, oh, wait a minute. There are trout here. So I ended up getting my third trout in that location. Caught some striped bass as well. And then I switched over, went back across, and stayed in this area. And from there, I was working the river flowing this direction. This area right here is where they were kind of tending. And then later on, you'll see me on a more of an incline area, like almost like a boat ramp. And I was standing there and right here, and I was fishing this section here. Okay. And notice that that's where they were tending. Okay. And there's like rocks, channels, little pockets and whatnot. Pretty much just as long as I could keep it in that area, in that money zone, I was doing well. In this particular location right here that I was fishing, I was actually doing where I swing the fly. So I cast it cross stream, 90 degree, and I allow the line, the rod or the fly line, and the fly to swing downwards. Okay, and then at the end of the swing, I would start doing a twitch. And what happens is typically when you're swinging a fly, it'll let's see. When you're swinging the fly right here, you cast it straight ahead, or let's say straight ahead, and then it'll start swinging. And when it gets at the tail end of the swing, right at the end of the pool where it's starting to come out and get shallower, and where the water's kind of doing one of these or up and down motions. The same thing will happen with your fly as it gets at the end. It'll kind of do this little dip. And what I was adding to that little dip was a little twitching motion, and that was eliciting a strike. And that's how I ended up limiting out that day. In fact, I've done that over the years, working different rivers, is letting it swing downriver, and then that added twitch just to get that fly to move a little bit different and get them to strike. Okay, so that was Highway 16 Bridge, Possum Kingdom Lake, and particularly fishing the trout kings over here on the Brazos. Okay, now let's go shift. We're going to go down south to the most southernmost year-round trout fishery. It's the Guadalupe River. Okay, and some things that you got to keep in your back pocket when it comes to the Guadalupe River is the bank is pretty much privately owned. There's only a few public area accesses that you can go to, as well as there is the Trout Unlimited leasing program, but it gets filled quickly to be able to fish these leased areas that the Trout Unlimited sponsors or is able to get agreements with landowners. So in this particular case, since a lot of us don't have that opportunity, especially since I'm over here in the North Texas area and I only go down to that area about maybe 2 or 3 times a year, yeah, it gets a little tough to make it to those locations. Okay, but there are some opportunities still to be had if you're just going to be able to, well, give it a try. All right, so let me show you. First, we'll just go through these trout stocking areas and these locations. So there's the Guadalupe Park is where they stock trout. They will stock trout over here at Whitewater Sports. Okay. The 4th Bridge Crossing. And then the 3rd Bridge Crossing. And then I never pronounce it right, but I just call it Waco Springs right there. Okay. Those are the 5 locations that they stock trout. Okay. There's also some special regulations. I've got them shown here. Before you go over there, just definitely make sure that you read the regulations and understand them well, because it's changed over the years. Like one year it had to be 18 inches, day limit of 1 for a particular trout. Other years, I think they've changed it like more like a slot limit. I don't know what it is right now. You could read it off here, but you can also just go to their website and take a look at what Texas Parks and Wildlife has posted. Okay, but let's go ahead and take you to these particular locations, and we'll call them out as we get to them. Okay, so the first one is Guadalupe Park. Okay. So this is the parking area for Guadalupe Park here and here. You access this side of the river. There's some stairwell that comes down, and you can come here. Over here, there's actually a trail that takes you down through the woods and trees and whatnot, and you can kind of walk yourself down here up to a certain point. Again, a lot of the area is privately owned. This will be well marked as to where you can stay on the trail, and just make sure you stay on that trail. All right. Okay. Now let's go on to the next one. Is Whitewater Sports. It's the other place that I mentioned right here. And this is Whitewater Complex. Okay. That's where they have a lot of music, music venue, country music artists, or other musicians coming over here. They used to offer a leased access here to the state, but I believe that didn't hold over this year. And over the years, I've seen some signs here where it says you can park, but be careful. It could have changed this year. It could have changed next year, etc. Just make sure you check. but this is another location where they stock trout. Okay. The next location that I want to show you is the fourth bridge crossing. Again, this is the fourth bridge. This is where they stock trout. This is also Rio Guadalupe Resort, Rio Raft. They've changed the names over the years, but bottom line, fourth bridge crossing, they stock trout there, and I've got more details to show you here in the presentation here. Okay, the next location is the third bridge crossing. Okay, so this is the fourth bridge where Rio Raft, Rio Guadalupe. We're going to call out Lazy LNL right down here, and that's where they host a lot of trout events. I think Oktoberfish as well as Trout Fest is hosted over here by Lazy LNL. But this is the third bridge crossing right here. Okay, and the key there is they release trout here, but this is also that special regulation zone where there are some special limits or size limits that you need to be aware of. Okay, here is Lazy LNL. Okay, and I'll show some more on this, but remember, third bridge crossing was back that way. Okay, Lazy LNL comes along this whole section here. Okay, and they call this the Devil's Playground, I think. There's more on that. There's like an overlook that you can look and you can see in the water when they are stocked with some trout, as well as some of those big bruisers that are carryover. That's why I call it out here. Okay. And then the next one is going to be Waco Springs. Okay, that's going to be the last place where they stock trout. And this one is one that you can, as long as you have a Texas Parks and Wildlife fishing license, you don't have a pay the day entry fee. You come in here and you can park in this area here, and you can fish this whole section here for trout. Okay. All right, and let's see. I think I had some videos, some past trips that'll be coming out.
Race, you can see water coming out. Some other people fishing on the other side. Look in the water. See if we can get situation by heading out to the big tree that was in the river. Started working this spot and got our first strike.
Oh, and one thing to call out here is this is not during the normal trout stock season. I went there, I think it was August, September time frame. So this is well into the summer, and I'm able to hook up with some trout that are still lurking in the river. All right. Again, it's the southernmost trout fishery, year-round trout fishery in the U.S. And sure enough, they are there. It's just that I didn't get the big ones, but still, hey, it's pretty cool catching a trout here in the Guadalupe, even outside of the normal trout stocking season program. All right.
With the near deer, fortunately wasn't able to hook up with a fish. So kept at it several more times, and unfortunately, no more strikes after that. So decided to go ahead and cross to the other side, see if we can work the or fish the area by the base of the tail race. So walk downstairs. There's a view of the stairs. Down the trail a little, and we'll make it just over to the fishing area at the base of the tail race. So overall, ended up seeing a couple of fish, as well as getting one to strike. I had a couple other strikes as well on top of those, and ended up finally hooking into one, as well as hooking into another, but losing that one. So this round we ended up with one trout, which still a good day. So you can see that the sun came out, and ended up taking a black olive woolly bugger under a strike indicator. So fun stuff here. Here's a view of the little trout. Here is another view of the trout. So ended up releasing this one, ended up losing another. But bottom line, had a really good day out fishing. Next time we'll catch y'all later, and good luck and good fishing.
Okay, so that was Guadalupe Park, and I want to call out a few things. Okay, so in that video, you saw where I was catching a fish. I started out fishing over here by this big cypress tree down here, okay? And then later on, went across, drove across, came back here, parked here. You saw the stairs coming down this way. And then I come over here by this area here. It's like a little pier overlook area. And that's where I hooked into one, but lost it. And then I went further down river and waded into the river. It was August, so hey, good time to be in a river, ain't it? And started fishing this area here and had several hits. I probably would have got more than one, but hey, it was possible to get one outside of the normal trout stocking season here in the Guadalupe. Okay, so that's Guadalupe Park. That's the one of 5 locations that they stock during the trout stocking season. Okay, let's go on to the next location. Should be up here shortly.
Another round at Rio Raft, caught a trout, November 29, 2013. I headed out this about mid-afternoon and decided to go try Rio Raft. Suggests that we fish just past the bridge, so we did, and lucked into one that put up a really good fight. We're using a tandem rig with a dry fly, or actually a midge, and a Prince Nymph size 18. And it actually took the Prince Nymph of the tandem rig. Did see several others in the pool. Unfortunately, they did not want anything we were throwing at them. So luckily we got into this one. We ended up fighting them for about 5 minutes using a 6-weight switch rod. He's coming in and took out line and put up a good fight. Almost got him to shore. Give it a quick measure. And looks like we can't keep this one. It's only 16 inches, but that said 16 inches is a pretty nice trout for us. So we let it go and give it another shot. Here's a view of the river. And like we said, that was our only one that we caught today, but still had a great time catching them. Did spy one that was just kind of drifting in the water and was hoping to get an underwater shot of him, but unfortunately missed him.
Okay, so that was the 4th Bridge Crossing, Rio Raft, Rio Guadalupe Resort. Names change, but 4th Bridge Crossing. Okay, so you check in over here. Okay, and you can fish this whole area. Okay, above this, I believe it's the normal rules apply. Okay, but make sure you check. All right. The other thing is when I was talking with them, here we go. God, I had the wrong one. Okay, you check in over here. You can fish this area here. And then they suggested going under the bridge and work your way down this way, okay? As long as you stay in the water and don't go on the bank, you can fish further down river, okay? If you get off the bank, you're on private property, you could get in trouble, okay? Where I caught that 16-inch trout, I was standing right in here along these rocks, and I was fishing this little run right here, or channel, okay? And it's a very light strike. I was surprised I got that hit, but bottom line, it worked, okay? Let's see. Let's go on to the next location. Okay, it should be coming up here.
Rainy day on the Guadalupe, November 23, 2013.
We headed out to Lazy L&L Campground and checked out the Devil's Playground. Here are the steps that are leading down to the water. It was rainy, cold. Luckily, we had some cold weather or wet weather gear with us. And things looked promising, but it was a really rough day for us. Worked this part of the river for a good portion of the morning with no hits. Did see someone get a nice looking, or at least hook into a nice trout. Unfortunately, it broke off. And went on to work the shallows and other areas and started looking around to see what they were feeding. And in this case, some kind of little midge, some kind of grayish colored one. Even went upriver to take a look at another section of the river and work that area. And again, no hits. We tried Guadalupanas, olive woolly bugger, trout beads, with no luck. Also tried switching over to a midge and didn't get anything. Did see a couple in this section of the river, but unfortunately they didn't want what we wanted or what we were presenting. But we did
All
get
right.
this one.
Not quite 18 inches, but still a good one. We caught one finally. Woo!
All right, yeah, that was a rough day fishing Les Anel and L, the campground area. Let's see, but hey, that's how it is. But let me go and call out some specific areas over here at Lazy now. So in that first piece, this is the Devil's Playground. This section here, okay, and you see that there's some steps, railings, and whatnot. As you come through there, there'll be a big sign, Devil's Playground, from the parking area. You come over here, this overlook, and you stand there. When they do stock trout, or when the trout are there, you can see in that rocky section, if I'm standing there, polarized glasses, you can see the trout just kind of darting in and out of the pools and whatnot. So that was pretty cool. I've been there in the past where I've seen them there. This round they weren't. Okay, I did fish this whole section here. It was a rough day, didn't get anything. Later on, I went upriver and then fished this section here. And again, no trout, but ended up, I think it was like some bluegill and whatnot. Where I ended up catching that one trout was back at the Devil's Playground on this one concrete platform. And what happens is I was standing on this concrete platform and the river was coming more right in front of me, and I could see the water flowing over these rocky sections, falling into a pool, and then drifting or flowing further down river. And at that point, I was swinging Guadalupanas. I cast it out and just let it swing down current, and then set the hook when they struck. And in this case, I got this guy. One, but hey, still fishing, fun stuff. All right, let's go on to the next one. Okay, and
Guadalupe River at Waco Springs, December 24, 2012. 'Twas the day before Christmas, and what does the field team do? We went fishing on the Guadalupe River at Waco Springs. Things started out slow. We fished one pool for about 5 minutes without a strike and decided to move on. We moved downriver and immediately started getting hookups. Scrappy stalkers that went for the Guadalupana and really liking this fishing fly that originated on the Guadalupe. So looks like it's working here as we are at the Guadalupe. We fished the fly different ways, but we noticed that they seem to be taking it on a drift, very slow drift with the current. Had a lot of fun catching these scrappy fighters. Even enjoyed the weather. Even ended up falling in the river. It's a good thing the temperatures were not cold, so we were able to keep fishing despite being a little bit damp. Some of the strikes were really light, had to pay close attention to the fly line as it was taken, and then setting the hook. Regardless, we were able to catch our limit. We brought power bait, but ended up catching all of our trout on the Guadalupe and fishing fly and a fly rod. Did see others catching using power bait worms as well as a bubble fly rig. So really interesting seeing the different ways of catching them. Overall, the trout were small, but we did see a couple lurking along the edges of the pool that we were fishing. It's too bad they didn't want our fishing fly. Sure beats working, and as we'd rather be fishing than working, we definitely had a great trip.
Alrighty, so that is Waco Springs. It's the 5th location that they stock. And to call out the area, again, I'm fishing this whole section here, but I'm actually concentrating in this section right here. Okay, so I initially started fishing right here. You can see in the video there's some cars parked. That's all along this area, and I'm over here. I actually went across and fished this area also. Okay, and what's interesting about Waco Springs is when you look in the water, you'll see these little channels and these rocky like croppings or whatnot, and you can work right in those little pockets where the trout may be. Okay, so strike indicator, no strike indicator, just kind of working your fly into those holes or these channels. So what's pretty interesting is that whole section. You can see it with your polarized glasses. It'll be like a rock formation that kind of makes a hump like this, and you're fishing right in between these two. There's other ones where it's more, again, like a little channel piece here, but there's a hole where they're kind of lurking, and that's what I was doing. I was kind of just casting and just kind of working the fly into those little channels, just keeping the drift, no drag drift, and I was hooking up in that manner. Okay. All right, and I think that is pretty much it. Yeah. So, okay, so this time we were talking about stocking locations, some tips and whatnot. In this case, it's the fly fishing tips. Let's see, bear with me here. Okay. All right, in the case of fly fishing tips, we were talking about stocking locations, small ponds, community lakes, and rivers. We showed a couple of small ponds and how we fished it. Showed a couple of community lakes, one where they cordon off an area, the other one where they don't. And then we showed a couple of rivers, Lake Louisville Ecological Learning Area over there in Louisville, Texas, Lake Louisville. And then Possum Kingdom over there by Grayford, Texas. Fishing the Highway 16 Possum Kingdom River, or Highway 16 crossing at Possum Kingdom, where they stock trout. And then finally, we looked at the Guadalupe and looked at its 5 stocking locations, that being Guadalupe Park, Whitewater Sports, the 4th Bridge, the 3rd Bridge, and Waco Springs. Okay. Let's see. So with that, one last word. When in doubt, set the hook. Okay, so if it wiggles, if it jiggles, if it shakes, if it quakes, if it pauses, set the hook, and you'll be surprised what you could find on the end of your line. All right, appreciate y'all joining today. And hey, if you weren't able to join for the whole broadcast, come back. This will be available to you. And again, we talk about stocking locations, 3 categories or 3 types: small ponds, community lakes, and rivers. All right. So, hey, good luck this upcoming trout stocking season, and keep that in your back pocket. That all these different places that you can fish, there's always a pattern that you'll start noticing when it comes to catching stock trout in these locations. All right. Next time, we'll catch y'all later, and good luck and good fishing.